My topic is mill girls. My presentation is titled The New England Mill Girls. This happened in the early 19th century where Francis Lau created or had these mills built to create textiles. He chose to go with female labor, young girls, and young women because he knew that he could get away with paying them low wages. These girls were sent to these mills, to this mill, and lived in boarding homes. Some of the amenities at the boarding homes were lecture halls and churches where the girls would spend their free time. Although they did not have much free time, they worked very long days. They worked 14-hour days, 6 days a week, so that didn't leave very much free time. They lived under very strict rules. They were obligated to live up to a certain standard of life. They had certain behavioral standards that they had to live up to. Whereas other middle class and upper class young ladies had the chance to go to wards to learn the trade of mystery of being a housewifery or mystery of housewifery. At the time, young girls, children, and women did not work. It was looked down upon if they had to work. Upper class families, middle class families, they in a lot of cases had servants themselves, and that was one of the other opportunities for these young women. They could go to be servants for the upper and middle class. One of their other options were staying at the family farms and working the family farms. A lot of cases, the girls it's reported that the girls actually enjoyed being at the mills because they had the chance to be in society, they had the chance to have a little bit of independence, they had the chance to make their own money. Although a lot of the time the money was sent back to the families to help sustain their livelihood. A lot of the cases, the fathers, they had passed away, they had low-paying jobs themselves, they only worked the family farms, or couldn't find employment. And the family's only option was to send their daughters, these young girls, these young women, to these mills. Some of the machinery there were spinning frames, carding machines, and power looms. These machines were very loud. It had been reported that sometimes you could see the building shaking from these machines running. The girls started to complain about the possibility of going deaf. They started complaining about how hot it was inside of these factories, inside of these mills, because a lot of the machinery ran off of steam, so it made it very hot inside. Couldn't hear anything. Hours were long, and anyone would be upset with those type of conditions. Although they did say that this type of job was better than, for instance, being a servant for someone else, because if you were a servant, your hours never stopped. If you were called to do something, you had to get up and do it. So although these girls reported, although hours were long, when the clock hit a certain time, their workday was done. So that was one good thing. They also believed and felt that they were part of the new revolution that was occurring in that time. They said that they were adding to the modernization of America. They were helping with economic growth. They were helping with women's rights. They had a magazine called Lau Offering. And this magazine featured poetry featured essays about about abolishing slavery, about women's rights. It also consisted of short stories. Later on, the girls started writing in the magazine about the harsh conditions, which later stopped the magazine. In 1844, LFRA started, which was the Lao Female Labor Reform Association, where they fought for better pay and for better conditions. A lot of women went on strike, but it failed, and a lot of women returned, and at this time had even lower wages. You had some women like Harriet J. Hansen and Lucy Larcom who left the mills and became writers. Harriet Hansen, she married William Stevens Robbins when she was 23 years old. Miss Hansen went to the mills at age 11 and was able to escape through marriage and then became a writer. She became a widow around the age of 51. Her husband had passed. He also had a low-paying job. He was a newspaper reporter, so she had to sustain some type of income to help it with her family, so she wrote. She ended up writing Loom and Spindle. It was a writing about the life at the mills. This happened later on in life. She was in her 70s when she wrote this, and a lot of people argue that she was arguing about things changing and shifting at the time, so she was defending the mills. So it's hard to say if she really had a positive outlook like she wrote in Loom and Spindle, but she claims that it was positive. She says that although conditions were harsh, it was still a good experience for her. She was still able to make a life for herself. A lot say that she was inspired by Lucy Larcom, who wrote New England Girlhood in 1889, which was also a writing about working at the mills. These women were very influential. We know a lot about the mills today because of women like them who wrote about their experience there. There has been diaries found to help us know more about the conditions there and what went on there in the mills. But overall, it was an honor to get a job at these mills, regardless of the low pay, long hours, many days a week. It was a good experience for a lot of these girls, and they went on to do better things for themselves, to make a life for themselves. A lot of them went west, where they did become writers and be a part of our history that we know today.